Welcome back. As you can see, I am joined with a very special guest today. I've been promising this video for a while, and we are just now getting around to it. We're going to do this back in May. So today, we are having a conversation with my graduate. She is headed off to school in not quite 2 weeks. If you have any questions that we don't address, leave them down below, and I will get to them. If you want to watch this with your teen, that would be great too. In fact, that goes back to the first video she and I did after her freshman year, where we talked about high school, her first year, a long time ago. So long ago. And she gave some advice of things that she wished she had known before she started high school. So I will leave that down below as well. So, Elizabeth, I guess we'll just start with, what do you think was the easiest part of high school?
I think the easiest part of high school was probably maybe the work itself. The information in the books was probably the easiest to grasp versus managing, versus the harder part was managing the work and all that stuff. 'Cause the information itself, you can grasp that, but the harder end of it was managing the time, getting everything done, and working with the challenges of the curriculum.
We were pretty relaxed schoolers before high school, and we did a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
And so that transition in high school of managing it all, because I stopped telling her what to do day to day. She took that all on as a freshman. And yeah, that was definitely a challenge for her, and probably one of those things that was hard for Mom to step back from and kind of let her do it. She figured it out. She figured out a system that worked for her, but
yeah,
I definitely had to step back and cross my fingers for her at times.
Yeah.
But the information itself,
I thought was, there was challenging courses, but not it wasn't the hardest part of high school for me.
Do you think that we could have done more difficult classes, or I could have raised my standards of what?
I don't know. I think maybe sophomore year I probably could have done some harder ones, but I did take a hard English class that year, which was the one that challenged.
That was British literature year?
Yes, British literature. That was the one that put us all through it.
That was a challenge. And here's what I'll say to you. If you, when you're studying Shakespeare in high school, SparkNotes, I think I've talked about this before, but SparkNotes has modern translations, probably of other things too besides Shakespeare.
Does.
But of older works, they do a modern translation and it's side by side, so you can pull that up, and that was a big lifesaver for us.
Yes. That was probably the hardest class. I say, other than that, I feel like I had junior and senior year were challenging courses, being mostly college classes taking, but I think sophomore year you probably could have done one more harder course.
Yeah, I would agree.
But that British literature was probably just one more on top of that class.
Yeah.
But that one also led into COVID, so doing one more would have been an extra element of challenge.
I didn't have down in my notes about working, but let's go ahead and chat about that. She started work, was it after your junior year?
I started in April
of her junior year. And I've shared, she's a waitress at a local place. Working evenings.
Yes.
What do you think, what would you share about your experience of working while in high school? Do you think it is a worthwhile thing?
I do think it's a worthwhile thing. I think the skills you learn through it is good for as you go into college or whatever you do after high school, learning to balance, whether you're in college trying to work, learning to balance those skills while you're still in high school, while you still have more support to figure it out, so you can trial and error before you get out into the real world and have to really learn those skills because they're, like, you just have to.
Yeah. What skills or such that you learned on the job do you think were some of the most valuable?
Probably, like, teamwork and, like, being able to work with different personalities that don't necessarily always mesh with yours. Like,
to put it mildly.
Yeah, just a little. But, like, to learn to work with other people and learning how to, put aside those, like, different personalities and just get the job done because it's what you're paid to do.
And in that regard, I think that's something, an extra set of skills that in public school with group projects and stuff, you might pick up on some of those in ways that we don't when your group projects are with your mom and your brothers. So in that way, I think there's definitely some added skills and just the different personalities and stuff that, yes, I mean, it's not like we're hermits, but the personalities, the people she interacts with are usually the same people outside of work. Like church, other activities.
Yes.
It's the same groups. Work, you've worked with a lot of people.
Yes.
Cycled in and out in your year and a half or so of working there. So as a parent, I didn't expect to see so much growth from her job, but hands down, I think it was one of her best choices for senior year.
Yes.
Going into senior year, we didn't know how much we were going to have her work with workload, but she averaged like 4 evenings a week, 5 evenings?
I would say 5. I don't think there was, after September, I think 5 evenings was consistently.
In what ways do you think you were prepared for high school level?
I think starting to take high school classes in middle school helped because I took Algebra 1 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So
Spanish.
And Spanish 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helped was like I already kind of knew the more difficult level of work, even if I wasn't prepared for, the number of courses. Like I already had preparation of what was expected of high school courses, which having that expectation already clear is very helpful to knowing how things can work into you're more mentally prepared to like, okay, this is how things need to work. How do I get there?
What else do you think? Anything else, or do you?
I was gonna say I don't really know. Nothing's coming to
I
mind.
can't think of. I think one thing that we did well as far as helping her learning to manage things was in 8th grade she started taking on managing, or dividing out her workloads.
Yes.
Not for every subject, but a little bit here and there.
Helped.
Really, I think it helped with her, especially with her personality. Then really by not long into 9th grade year, she could do it all.
Yeah.
And by junior year, I think I've shared this before too, when we talked with her dual enrollment classes, I never saw a syllabus. I never knew what her workload looked like. She just did it, and then the grades proved that she was doing the work. Like, that was a weird part of it to me, was that transition of like, I don't even know what she's doing. But she did well. She did very well. What do you think we could have done better, looking back?
I don't know. Maybe doing maybe a little bit more playing 8th grade year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe a little bit, like, just doing a little bit more. But other than that, I don't really feel like there was a lot more, like, preparation-wise that comes to my head.
The one thing that I learned as the mom is that some kids need a little bit more push to get involved in extracurriculars in a way that things just changed in the high school years, as far as opportunities and such. And I didn't do a fantastic job pushing her. And then once COVID hit, it just messed it all. It just made it harder then to to get involved.
Yeah, I would say extracurriculars come COVID was, there just wasn't anything, because it did start my sophomore year, and then junior year, still things were going on, so by the time I got to senior year, I was working, and I was taking dual enrollment credits. Like, I just didn't, at that point, I was like, I didn't really have the interest in
kind of, I don't want to say checked out, but
almost, yeah, I was, like, checked out, like, I don't really.
If you have a high school kiddo who is more hesitant, don't be afraid to push a little more, to try different activities at least. And if they don't like it, they don't like it. You don't have to finish. But I would say that's something that I should have pushed a little more. Oh, I will also say I don't think we did well preparing her with writing. We just had some challenges teaching her to write. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around the best way to approach it for her. I had a hard time finding curriculum that I thought would work. We tried various things.
Yeah.
That said, 9th grade, she took it at her co-op.
Yes.
And I think it was a great idea to outsource it and let someone else teach her, so that I could be the support person, not the teacher for it. And she did wonderfully once her level of writing improved very quickly her freshman year.
Yeah.
So if you have a kiddo who is struggling in whatever subject, they say if you try to teach a 2-year-old to their ABCs, there's a lot of repetition involved. But if you try to teach a 7-year-old, it goes a lot more quickly. And it's true. Like, writing wasn't strong going to 9th grade, but by the end of her 9th grade year, there was a huge jump.
Yeah.
So don't fear that. Don't fear that your child is never going to learn to write a 5-paragraph paper. They will.
Yeah. Yeah, they will.
They will.
It just takes time.
It takes time, and
time.
And feel free to outsource any subject. Yes. If it's causing tension between you, that's a great subject to outsource. Do you have any favorite classes that you didn't take through me?
I think probably some of my favorites were psychology my senior year, which I did dual enrollment, and then my pre-calculus class my junior year. Yeah. I loved both of those, and those were like some of my favorite classes. I was like, I also enjoyed my statistics class. That was a more challenging dual enrollment class, but that one was a really interesting one that I enjoyed the challenge of. Like, I enjoyed being challenged by the math side of things, since math comes more naturally to me. Like, being able to take a math class that pushed me to grow in it was a good...
It pushed.
It really pushed.
On the topic of dual enrollment, as you could tell by the way her face lit up, she really enjoyed her dual enrollment classes. It was a great idea, and I'm glad that I didn't know how much it would
stress,
how good it would be, how good the result would be.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you want to say about dual enrollment? Like, as far as why should kids do it, or should do you think only kids who are going into college do it? What would you say?
Honestly, I don't think it really matters whether or not you plan to go to college after high school. I think it's good building skills of being able to learn at a young age to just like learn to work with the expectation of like you're just going to do the work and you're not going to be guided every step of the way. Because when you get out, like a lot of high school, like it's just like, okay, here's what you're going to do. Here's your constant reminders, versus when you get to college, it's just kind of like, here's your syllabus, look at it, and then do the work by this deadline. Like, there's not day-to-day planned out. So I think going into the real world, learning that, like, these are your tasks this day, let's learn to plan it out yourself, would be good for any student. It's just good life skills.
It is a good life skill, whether... as a stay-at-home mom, like, learning the skills of, like, everything I need to do in a week, getting it done. That can be a challenge, as any of you know who have made that transition to staying at home, or whether you are working in an office job where your boss isn't giving you all the like a detailed list of what needs done.
But learning how to figure out how to just get it done is probably one of the most valuable skills you can learn through dual enrollment. But like, yes, the information is great knowledge just to, grow in your book knowledge, but the life skills that come from the classes can really help you grow as a person.
And that pushing through, even when it's not something you're enjoying,
or is challenging, like it can push. Like I took a public speaking class, and public speaking is not something that comes naturally me. It's not something I'm comfortable with, but pushing through that class was a good like learning to just keep pushing even when it is uncomfortable or when it isn't feel like it's not quite working well. Like being able to push is good,
because as homeschoolers, we have that tendency when if something isn't working, we change it, the curriculum. If they hate a book, we swap out and do a different book. And those things are fantastic for the flexibility of homeschool. But in the real world, that's not always going to be possible. And so I do think it was
really good and
to know that sometimes you just have to get through it.
Yeah. I would say I think taking public speaking in both that statistics and public speaking my junior year prepared me for work going into like when problems did arise at work or things just didn't feel like they were quite going the way I wanted them to, like learning able to push through and just be like, okay, I need to keep going, like how am I going to make this work was good life skills that I had kind of got from those classes in junior year.
Yeah.
Like good perseverance.
I would definitely suggest it. Here in North Carolina, I've talked about this. North Carolina, we don't pay for the classes. We only pay for the books. So especially if you have a interstate like that, because she's getting the other experiences, working at a higher level, and I don't have to teach it, and I don't have to pay for it. Pretty good deal. Of your classes that we did at home, what do you think was your favorite? You didn't think back that far.
I was going to say.
One I enjoyed was your U.S. history.
Oh, I did enjoy U.S. history.
That's one I've shared how we did this one with. We did U.S. history detective from Critical Thinking Company. We did history of like the best songs of the 20th century. That was a lot of fun, and I'll link those videos down there.
Yeah, no, that's one I would say that was probably one of my favorite. See, I don't know what other.
I can't think what else we did.
I say senior year is the only one. We outsourced a lot of classes throughout my high school between co-op and dual enrollment, especially coming junior and senior year, and then online classes I took. That there's.
Yeah, we did a lot of outsourcing with hers.
Senior year, the one I can think of is physics, which that one's not at all my favorite.
She did physics through Well-Trained Mind Academy. Or the lab part. And I've talked about that. I'll leave the link down below.
I love the physics labs.
I've got a lot of videos from her curriculum in high school, so I'll leave that down there. Heading off to college here, do you have, you feel confident?
Yes, I feel like the skills from dual enrollment credits, yes, I'm going to be taking more college classes, but the skills that I've learned, especially junior and senior year, have prepared me to be able to keep on going even when it doesn't always feel like it's quite working. Like learning to balance the classes and then personal life and just learning to balance it all and just to keep persevere through it all.
Good word. I feel like, before she did dual enrollment, I wasn't sure. I thought she was smart. I thought she was capable. But she's my kid. Like, how do you really judge that against? She's the best student in her class and the worst student in her class. There's no one to compare her to. So I didn't know. Then she took dual enrollment courses, and I saw her excel in the managing of the skills, doing well, getting good grades, And I felt a lot more confident now to send her off into high school. And not that dual enrollment should be about me, but it was a big boost to me that, like, yes, she's going to do okay. I have no worries about that. I'm confident in her ability to manage it all. Those videos I mentioned are all down in the down bar. And you have any questions for us, for me, for her? Leave them down there. And I'll see you in the next video.